Hello and welcome to Tomorrow from Australia. And I'm actually going to do a little read on Australia today. My Australian viewers have been a bit neglected. I'm so sorry, guys. But I'm also doing a new format on some level. So what I want to do is introduce each reading one person who has passed away and what they have to say. So today it's going to be JFK. He was huge, huge. But we're going to kick off with Biden, how he's travelling. He seems to be doing pretty well. He's at 59%. Popularity isn't bad under the circumstances. Good. But in particular, the infrastructure project. So let's have a look at that first. All right. Tell us about Dear Joe. And guys, it's such a buzz meeting you for the readings. I'm so enjoying it. It's fabulous because we're bonded. Some of you have been here recently, others go back 4 years. We're bonded in the face of what's going on in modern times. So it's so good to meet you guys. So thank you. I'll do that. So now let's have a look. Biden and the Dems. And what is the challenge? And underneath, and doing a bigger spread than normal. Not out of the woods. Well, we'll see. We will see. Okay. In the middle, his card is the Four of Pentacles, holding on to money, holding on to resources. That might seem counterintuitive when we're talking about the huge outlays that are coming up, but not so much. It's how people perceive him. There's an element in this that to be at 59%, on some level, people trust him with money. And also, along with many other countries, it's time to realise that investment isn't just something venture capitalists do. It's what governments should be doing. And he has also talked about a $50,000 waiver on student loans, and that would be a good start. But to cripple, I think it's 36 million Americans have debt, student debt. It's outrageous, unforgivable, doesn't have to be. The first thing you do is stop putting interest on it. Student loan, no interest. We don't pay interest on our student loans in Australia. Okay. Now, all of that's bound up. There's an intrinsic trust with him about money, and I think it's his essential nature, even though he's sort of more out there than people expected, that's how he thinks. His challenge is not a challenge of what will go wrong. The challenge is he has been called to this position. I think he believes that. And I certainly believe it. I think he has been called. And although I was very lukewarm, like a lot of people in the early days of who the candidates could be, it was like, really? He has stepped up and he sees it as a calling. Is it just me, or does he look a bit younger and friskier than he did a year ago? He's sort of embracing this stuff because he has faith and he calls on that faith and he is getting support. Yes. So underneath that is A, a strong marriage, and B, this is a continuation of his popularity. The cards are all going swimmingly on this side of the read and not so well on the other side of the read, but we'll get to that. Okay. So he has the Lovers card, which is very good, the Nation. He has the Queen of Pentacles. So Pelosi often turns up for me as either the Queen of Pentacles or the Queen of Swords. In this case, I think it's still her. She's still a player. You know, she's still a player out there. So here's the issues that he's up against, and they're not insignificant. The threat, two difficult cards. This is someone either stealing something outright or getting away with what they can get away with. I think this is let's hope it's the last gasp of the GOP. But in any event, these two cards are GOP cards. Are they going to help and support in any way moving the nation forward? No, they're not. They don't want the Dems to get credit for anything, and they will throw their bodies across it happening. So he's not out of the woods. He still has to deal with those. But if you look at the actual demographics, their numbers are not as marvellous as they used to be. But he's under serious pressure and serious attack ongoingly. Although I was amused to see today one of the GOP strategists was saying, oh, it's so hard to demonise him because he's such a nice guy. Did it ever occur to you not to demonise him and maybe work with the man? But no, may not. Okay, he still has the sun shining here. He will prevail and sanity will prevail, but not without a fight. And the Knight of Swords, this is part of all these swords energy here, right? He's not without his own weaponry. He's not without his own weaponry. So I'm just going to get to my other little cuties, my little oracle cards. For some reason, they're all mixed up. If they're upside down, I'm not going to read them as upside down because I must have dropped them or something and they're all over the place. So I'll just do a quick spread now on, well, at least the majority of the infrastructure bill, which includes revitalising black neighbourhoods and stuff. So, you know, it's quite expansive. So will it go ahead in a form that's recognisable? Digression. What's the idea of Hillary Clinton and Obama for healthcare got so watered down that it's unrecognisable? What you've got in the form of Obamacare is not remotely universal healthcare. No, 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 no. It's something, but it's not universal healthcare. Nor is it affordable healthcare. No. And when you have work colleagues or relatives or people who are quite happy with their health policy that they've got now through their employers, etc., remind them that in Australia and most countries that have universal healthcare, you can still have private insurance. You can have both. It's called a mixed model of health. So people are covered on every level, and if you want to pay extra into your private health insurance and have your own room and pay for your own anaesthetist and have your own doctor and do all that, you can. It's not one or the other. All this nonsense about socialised medicine, I mean, you know, rubbish, absolute rubbish. Anyway, what was I reading on? Infrastructure. Okay, here we go. They're thinking present, sort of amateurs. It's being considered seriously now, like the nuts and bolts of it are being considered. And please, may we all pray that they don't announce this big infrastructure bill that with trillions of dollars to spend and then farm it all out to private companies who take shortcuts, who don't pay their workers, and when the bridge falls down 2 weeks after it's gone up. No, union jobs, good quality jobs. So they're thinking about it. So I hope they're really thinking about it. It's a present or a gift to the nation. It shouldn't be looked at just as outlays, you know, not like Reagan, that whole thing of, oh, let's get rid of government, governments are bad, and small government. It's the opposite of that. The majority of people benefit when you've got a powerful, sensible government. This is a gift to the nation. This is investment, not just what entrepreneurs do. This is an investment. And la matrice, it's probably pronounced differently from that. I'm sorry, any Italian viewers, but it's sort of, it's a cross between love and an armistice. So those are good cards for it getting across the line, almost not as is, but at least recognisable. So a very quick read on Australia, and then we'll move to what JFK is thinking about all of this. I'll be interested. Okay, so let me just give the cards a good mix up here. Oh my God. With the lockdown in Melbourne, where I live, which has been the longest lockdown in Australia, the rest of Australia's really been partying like it's 1999. We've had the brunt of the lockdown. I haven't seen so many men doing home renovations and chores. I really haven't. They're out there every day with their sanders and their whistleblowers and everything noisy. It's like craziness. It's like the 50s on mega steroids or something. It used to be really quiet here, and now it's like someone's building something, painting it, changing it. Okay, now Australia. I'll be brief because, let's be frank, most of the world is not interested, but we are. Oi, oi, oi. That'll mean something to Australians. Okay. So, in the big picture, King of Cups. Off to a non-start here. I don't think that's our Prime Minister. We are at a crossroads. Not looking good further out, and then if we go further out again, it's fine. So what do I take that to mean? Who is this King of Cups? Okay, now the King of Cups, that's my Biden card. When the King of Cups is a good guy, it's someone who understands other people's emotion and gets the big picture. However, when the King of Cups is not necessarily a nice guy, and in this case, we're next to this Nine of Swords. So I have to remind myself of what is the other interpretation of the King of Cups when he's not nice, and that's someone who's emotionally manipulative. So I'm revising my opening sentence. Scott Morrison, our leader, who's a Pentecostal and has had to be dragged into the 21st century kicking and screaming. I think this is him. He comes from advertising. Will we stop getting these industrialists and businessmen to be politicians? You're supposed to be serving the people. So he puts out these selfies that are slightly crooked with the kids and stuff to look like Mr. Usual Guy. It's nauseating. Okay, this, I'm hearing China. He's blown it with China. Not permanently, because the final outcome card's all right. And why is that? It's because Australia follows America into every war, every conflict, every trade issue when we needn't. New Zealand doesn't, Canada doesn't, but we do, which is why we were the first ones with our hand up for the coalition of the willing. That went splendidly. Half the population of Iraq permanently displaced and the whole Middle East destabilised. We were part of that. Awesome. Okay, so I think it is Scott Morrison, and I think he's worried about China, because I don't think he's worried about anything else. Okay, we as a nation are at a crossroads, right? And our opposition, the Labor Party, the equivalent of your Dems, is being very wimpy and frankly useless. The Queen of Pentacles, we need more outspoken women. We have 4 or 5 sensationally talented women at a high level in politics, but they're just knocking on the door. We have had one female Prime Minister who was brought in a backroom deal, so it wasn't marvellous. But these women, I think, have the goods. The problem is they're doing the double job. So they've got kids and they think, oh, my kid's, you know, doing their end of high school exams or something, so I won't go for Prime Minister. Speaking of the 50s, this is still impacting people's lives and affecting Australia very specifically. We are going to get a new leader who's younger, fresher, and hopefully more on the ball. Outcome, fine. If we manage to transition from digging holes in the ground like brain-damaged Labradors because we're a commodity-driven country, we sell copper, iron ore, and uranium. Coal exporting, big business, all of that. If we can finally transition away from that and stop subsidising those industries and put the money into other things, it's a much rosier outlook. Good, Well, now, JFK. I was born in 1955. And so I was 8 when JFK was assassinated. And I can still remember it. The word came through, the teachers must have heard it on the radio or something. And we were so shocked, so genuinely shocked. But of course, he isn't the only progressive to be wiped out. Is there a pattern, America? Time to look at that. But enough of Lena prattling on. JFK. JFK, what does he think is in store for America right now? And let's say the next 4 years. JFK, what's your message for the next 4 years? The next 4 years. The next 4 years. The next 4 years. All right, I'm going to pull a signifier for him and then 4 cards representing each of the next 4 years. Let's see. America is hostage. America is a hostage. He is concerned about that. Ooh, the devil card, evaluation. Now, here's the thing with the hostage card, and this will explain everything. Okay, in this card, excuse me, the young woman's blindfolded. Her hands are bound. It looks like the swords are all around her, but they're not. There's actually a path in front of her, but she can't see it because she's blindfolded. So the message with the 8 of Swords is this. If you can't see clearly what's going on, trust your intuition, the water, symbolized by water here. If she can trust her intuition and realize she's not actually hemmed in at all and that the bonds are quite loose, she can loosen the bonds herself. She can take the blindfold off and she can walk free. So I think, in a way, I almost don't need the other cards. I think that's his main message. At the moment, America is hostage to all sorts of things. So it's contracted to sort of be programmed, as all Western countries were. What's good for big business is good for England, is good for the USA, is good for Australia, right? All that propaganda and ideology. Hostage to that, hostage to history, all the stuff that keeps going on in terms of race relations and everything else. The glass ceiling for women, not being able to go forward. America became powerful and fabulous and famous by being innovative, brave, out there, inclusive, diverse, and using all that talent. And then it stopped. And now look. So I think this is absolutely hugely significant. The answer to this is to work together, right? But it's like JFK is saying, it's not straightforward, it's not easy, because you'll have those who want to sabotage it, they're always there. This is the devil card. We're talking about a whole nation. What does JFK think about America in the next 4 years? This speaks to not just the 7 deadly sins of, sloth, gluttony, greed, etc. There are individual vices and there are collective vices, right? So again, the chains, I don't know if you can see, around the neck of these individuals is loose. They can take the chains off. Do we see a parallel here? So don't be freaked out. These are heavy cards. They're not. They're simply pointing out what is happening and how he sees it. That unless people remove the chains and fight for their democracy and fight for what's right and bring in sensible laws and all of that, you're doing the work of the devil, who is not a little small hairy man with clawed feet. It's the shadow for all of us in every country. And we're now up to 21, 2, 3, 4. By 2024, serious evaluation of what is going on. So I think the next 3 years are still about the clashing and what's happening, but groups getting better organised on the good side to maximise potential and evaluating that. 2024 is going to be epic, and I think that's global. I think the next 4 years are really important. So that's JFK's message, and I was surprised, but I totally get it. So embrace the 8 of Swords, take the blindfolds off, look at what we're doing. When we talk of gluttony and greed and all these things, this is global, about denying global climate change and everything else. Countries can't survive and prosper in isolation. And that'd be why the UK is in the position it's in, thanks to Brexit. All right, guys, keep the comments flowing. I don't know if this will have ads or not. There are issues. Okay, I'll do my best. I'll be back to you real soon. Bye, guys.